What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here with the Nebula Music Podcast, and today I'm excited to be speaking with Dre Energy. Now, I guarantee you that you've seen some of Dre's stuff on Instagram. He's an amazing drummer who's always posting really cool videos of himself warming up, playing some cool grooves, and some of these videos have even gone semi-viral. But Dre is mostly known for his work with Cirque Du Solei. Cirque Du Solei is honestly one of the biggest productions in the world, and their shows are known for being very technical, and Dre was challenged to take over this show and to basically command this gigantic musical machine, and he owned it like a champ. So I knew that I had to sit down with Dre, figure out how he got that gig, and really understand his mindset behind his work. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here again, and I'm really excited for this episode because I have none other than Dre Energy joining me on this episode. Dre, how are you, my man?
Man, I'm blessed, man. How are you?
Oh, man, blessed as well. I love when people say blessed because you really have to be blessed to be really, really happy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like so many times we can spend so much time just like looking at what we don't have, what we haven't achieved, but rarely do we ever spend time just to sit around and just look at what we're blessed. And so I'm so glad that you came right out off the door just saying I'm blessed, because you really are. And we all are.
We all are, man. If we are actually speaking right now, if our eyes are blinking, if we can touch and feel, we are all blessed, period.
Period. Man, yes, so true. I haven't even asked you a question yet, and I already feel like this is going to be a great conversation, man. I'm so elated to talk with you. And for those of you guys that may have never heard of Dre Energy, or you probably have. If you've been on Instagram, you probably know who this guy is. You're a phenomenal drummer. You've played with many great people, including this really big production, which I'm sure most of you people have heard of, or maybe not, who knows, but you have, Cirque Du Solei, and you are a masterful drummer, man. So I don't want to waste time me talking about you. I would much rather you talk about yourself. So why don't we just start here, Dre? Why don't we just catch us up with what you've been up to lately, maybe a little bit of how you got started drumming, and then we'll just go from there.
Well, lately, man, I've just been kind of doing my own tours, just doing clinics in a lot of different countries, mainly China. China is my biggest market right now.
Really?
But just doing, I've done New Zealand. I've just a lot of random places. Seoul, South Korea, Tel Aviv, Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. So I've been blessed to just really, really kind of flourish in my gift in different spots in the world, man. Estonia, different spots in the world, and just doing things, man. Just doing what I've been equipped to do, and so I'm really excited about that. And for the most part, that's pretty much it, man. I left a tour with Cirque Du Solei. Our tour finished. The show had been on tour for 19 years, and so I came in the last 6 of the 19 years, and we finished almost going on 2 years now. Going on 2 years next month. We would have been finished 2 years ago in New Zealand, and it was wonderful, man. I had a blast playing as many places as I played around the world. It was great.
That sounds unbelievable. It's funny because I talk to a lot of touring musicians on this show, and primarily just because of my friends and my experience, I've met plenty of people that, like we play for pop acts and that whole scene, but I have yet, you're basically my first, talk to a musician or a drummer that specifically, played for a production that size for the amount of time that you played. And so my curiosity is definitely piqued. So I'm curious, how did the whole Cirque du Soleil thing, come to be? How did you get hooked up with that gig? I'm just curious. And it may be a broad question, but how did you make that connection with them?
No, it's really a simple question with a lot of different layers. But for the most part, my wife and I have been speaking about Cirque because there was an opening or audition that was posted on the internet. And so I was like, man, please. The thought of me getting a gig like this, well, I'm not going to do it. So my wife got mad. She's like, oh, you just want to stay broke for the rest of your life, huh? I'm like, oh, here we go with this. So I got up after that conversation and did my resume and did my bio and did all of that stuff and sent off a clip of me playing the drums. And they instantly sent me an email back and said, hey, can you come to New York City to do an audition? And I said, oh, okay. At that particular time, I was like gigless. I was, at one point in my life, I was playing 10 to 12 gigs a week, man. So I went from 10 to 12 gigs a week to 0 gigs. And so my wife and I took our bank account and put it in a negative $500 for plane tickets.
Wow.
We got to New York 3 days before the audition was supposed to happen. And so we were walking around New York with our luggage. I didn't have a hotel room, man. It's crazy.
Wow.
And we were walking around. We actually stayed in LaGuardia Airport at night. And during the day, we would just kind of just cruise the city because it was our first time, both of us being in New York. And so what was really crazy is that the people of New York was very, very helpful and very loving, and really, really just kind of helped us just kind of move along to do all the things that we needed to do. And that process was great. But, yeah, man, we walked around New York. Finally, we got to the day of, now mind you, I only had $60 for us, period, to like eat and do everything.
Wow.
So we got to the day of the audition, and I was exhausted, man, because we had been, with our luggages like everywhere, So
yeah.
got to the audition and got there like 3 or 4 hours early. It was the audition was at SIR New York. Was it the rehearsal hall?
Yeah.
So we did that, and so I went to do my audition, man, and my audition was flawless. And by the end, I was the last audition for them for that whole 3 days they were in New York, and I was their best audition that they had for that whole 3 days.
Nice.
So it was really, really great. And I didn't get a gig, I didn't get a show right off. So, but I got put on a list of possible. So, meaning that whenever a show came up for me as a drummer, I was one of the ones that was, going to be submitted, and I was submitted quite soon. Like it didn't take long at all. 2 months later, I was being presented with Kidam, and Kidam came and did that, and I did another audition. But let me tell you this though. The crazy thing is, I'm gonna back all the way up.
Go for it.
When I sent them the information of me playing drums and all that other stuff, I did my audition with a Razor phone.
Oh my God. I remember those. Oh my God.
Dude, that, and it's so crazy because a lot of times, and I say this in a lot of my interviews, man, a lot of times we feel that it has to be the production of it has to be so crazy and different things, and it has to be just so state of the art. Man, I did it with a Razor phone, and I got a call right away, right back.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, you don't have to dress it up. If you're a quality musician, quality player, it stands out, period. Whether it's a Razor phone or whether it's Pro Tools, it stands out. And so with that stood out for them. So that's how I got the gig. That's how I was able to do 6 years on the road with them, world tour. And now I'm here today, man. I'm here right now with you. So
your story already to me is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the Razor part of the story, using your Razor to shoot your video, is something that I haven't heard of yet. You're the first one to ever bring up filming something with a Razor. It's been forever since that phone that I've ever seen that phone. And you submit it to Cirque Du Solei, one of arguably probably the biggest production in the world, theatrical production. Yeah. You submitted that with a razor, and you got the gig.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I got the gig. Like literally, it was nothing, you know. And that's what they want. They want the rawness. They want the pureness of who you are and what you do. You know, all the other stuff is cool. You know, if you can produce it and have this great audition tape, cool. But for the most part, man, they just want the quality of who you are as a player first to stand out. And so that's what stood out for them. That's why I got the call back. That's why I was able to kind of sustain, and that's why I got some future projects coming up with Cirque Du Solei. So here we are.
That's fantastic, man. And now, one thing that kind of piqued my curiosity a little bit that you said that is definitely spot on. And before I even continue, I think it's always different in the music industry. I have definitely gone to my fair share of auditions, and I have played for different artists before. And I think everyone is slightly different in what they're looking for with their musicians, right? But for yours, you know, they were looking for a quality musician. Now, did you ever get a chance to like sit down with them and ask them like, all right, so what was it specifically about my video or audition that you liked? Was it a certain fill that I played? Was it the groove? Was it how I vibed with you? Because that's something that always, you know, that I'm always curious about, if that makes sense.
Well, I have not asked casting about that particular video, but I have asked my former music director on why he chose me to come play Kidam, and it had nothing to do with playing. I mean, of course, he loved what I did as far as playing was concerned, but it was the fact that I answered the question. You know, they ask you, you know, usually, why do you want to be here? Why do you want to come play for Cirque? My answer was simple. I didn't give them no crazy, pageant answer. I gave them an answer of like literally, I want to be here. I want to see the world. I'm your guy. Let's do it. Literally. And that was more so memorable because that was real. I didn't come from a place of, you know, just trying to dress something up. I came from, you know, just really a real place.
Yeah.
And so, and I really try to do that. I really try to stick to that, period. You know, whether it's in my playing, whether it's conversation, I try to be as transparent as possible because I need everyone to know, you know, what it is that, what it takes to get here, and what it takes to stay here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you feel like that's a core part of your personality? And the reason why I ask this is because, you know, lots of my fans and just people that I interact with a lot, you know, you encounter many different kind of musicians and just creative people in general. And the one thing I definitely am taking away from you, just with speaking with you for like 10 minutes now, is that you are very honest and very real from the very beginning, but you're not very, at least in my opinion, I'm not getting this very aggressive, like I'm right vibe from you, if that makes sense. You're just honest. You're just like, here's who I am. Here's what I can do. Here's how it is. And let's go.
I've always been easygoing and laid back. You know, there are times when I have to be aggressive, especially in business. But for the most part, man, I'm just the easiest dude. You know, and I don't like to BS. I want, you know, if it's got to be a certain thing, let's do it. I'm not allergic to working. So if I got to work for it, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the work honestly and give you what you need for it and do what it takes to make sure that it's comfortable for everyone, it's comfortable for myself, and just like really do that. I'm a worker. I'm a workaholic. So I don't like anything just given. I don't like to just like, you know, hey man, here you go, man. This, you know, I want to give you that. Cool. But me personally, so I can appreciate it, I'd rather work for it. And so that's always just been my thing, to just kind of do that. But yeah, man, it's nothing. It's people can respect you a little bit better when they know that you're going to be 100% real, even if the answer sucks.
Yeah.
At least you know that I'm going to be 100% real with you at the end of the day.
And you know what? That has something that, well, let me put it this way. I value that so much in myself and with someone like you, because you can spend your whole life, pursuing goals, pursuing dreams, and doing this and that. But if you're not being real to who you are and not understanding what it is of what's important to you, and you're constantly not doing what's important to you, then even if you get to the top, even if you get the dream gig or whatever it is, in my opinion, I don't think you'll ever reach that point where you're satisfied, if that makes sense.
It's, I'm never satisfied. Even if I had that $1 million gig right now, I'll still be trying to figure out how to do something else, because that's the creative side of that's the side of music that you're planted with. That's the hidden dis-ease that you're given when you decide to become a musician and be a creative. It's nothing wrong with stretching and saying, hey man, I really want to try something different, or I really want to do this project. And I'm always that dude. I'm always trying to keep something different going along in order to keep my creative side and creative juices flowing, period.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all with that.
And you know what? I'm very curious about the production side of Cirque Du Solei, and I want to get into that in a second, but I want to ask you this, just because I'm just genuinely a very curious person. And one thing that stood out to me when you started describing your history and just how Cirque Du Solei came to be is your wife. Your wife really stood out to me, primarily because I'm not married, but I understand the importance of having support, whether it is through friends, through family, whatever it is. And the fact that your wife was the one that pushed you, in a way, to go after this dream gig that's essentially changed your life. Like, I want to know a little bit more about your wife and like your connection with her. If I can ask, does she do music as well? Does she always support you with your creative endeavors? How has that relationship helped you in your career?
Well, I'll say this. Hey, babe, my wife. Hey, Gwen. My wife, Gwendolyn Boyd. Give a major shout out to her. Well, the thing is, man, when you are, I'm much more of a spiritual person, and I get the whole help me thing, and I understand that that with the help meet thing, with the wife, with the significant other, that you are blessed in many areas. And my wife pushed me into greatness. She pushed me into being here right now. If it wasn't for her getting upset, mainly, I wouldn't be here in this conversation with you.
Yeah.
But because she did, I'm here. Is she a musician? No. She's very creative. She's very beautiful, very creative, very great with her hands to do a lot of different things, man. But she's a music lover. But no, she can't play any instruments. But she's a great supporter. She knows how to push and get the best out of the person. And that's something I've seen with myself, and that's something I've seen with other people that she's done with. And I'm forever grateful for her, for that, for being in that position in my life. Of course, I have my mother, and my mother's been great, and I have other family members that's been just as great, my brother and stuff like that. But my wife really, really pushed me into the next level and next phase of my career, which is where I am now. So, yeah, I'm indebted to that beautiful woman named Gwendolyn Boyd that has really, really filled some spots that I couldn't do on my own. I've been playing for over 30 some years now. I've been playing for over 30, going on 34 years now. So obviously there were some things that I just could not reach, and I wasn't able to reach on my own. But with the help, with the extra help, I'm here now. Wow.
I mean, I can't explain it any better than that. I don't normally talk about this stuff on the show. I talk about different things depending on the artist. I love picking people's brains, but it stood out to me because And again, hopefully I'm not digging too deep into your story, and you tell me if I go too far.
Dig, man. I'm open, bro. Dig.
Well, let's do this. Look, here's the thing. I have tons of friends and tons of fans and just people that are constantly trying to get to that next level. You know what I mean? They're trying to get that gig, trying to get that bigger gig, or maybe even just trying to move out to the West or LA to try and pursue some sort of career in music. But your story, right before Cirque du Solei, in my opinion, from what I understand, there was a bit of a challenge there. I mean, you said that you went from having multiple gigs to having relatively 0 gigs. And here's what stands out to me is that in other situations, I can't speak about myself or yourself, but I imagine that there are situations like this when someone who's creative, someone who's, pursuing a passion goes from being successful or from going somewhere to being stuck or basically not having any success for a while. It could be easy for someone else, whether it's a spouse or a friend or someone who's a support character, to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't do that anymore. Maybe you should give up. You know what I mean? And so was she supportive during that time and helping you to continue pushing to be a drummer?
Yeah, she was very, very supportive. The other cool thing is right after we got done with all the stuff in New York, I got called to come do a show in Germany, to come do a show for about 3 months. And so I got the call for Cirque while I was over in Germany.
Nice.
So I was on another gig. I was on another touring gig and got the call for the big touring gig while I was on a gig, So yeah, she was very supportive. Period. My wife knows one thing about me, period, is that we're never going to go without. We're never not going to have anything, because I'm the ultimate hustler, period. Just in general, I'm the ultimate hustler, man. So there's never a dull moment. There's never a moment that she says, I wish I could have. Never. I'm a provider, so I make sure that there's nothing that she doesn't want for, or there's nothing that our whole situation needs. I'll make sure I can go out and get it at any given point.
And I love that about your character, because to me, you obviously know who you are and you know what you want, and you know that you have to work to get what you want.
Yeah.
You have to work. I mean, there's no way around it, whether it's Cirque du Soleil, whatever gig, maybe not even music related, but you have to work and dive yourself in to get anything or get anywhere in this world.
Bro, it's not going to fall from the tree. I wish it was like that. I have a lot of talented friends who are waiting on a gig, but newsflash, it just ain't gonna fall out the sky, man. It's just not. That just don't happen like that without you doing some kind of work.
You got to shake the tree.
There are some curses. You got to shake the tree. You got to go through something. There has to be a story behind you doing whatever that you're doing. So, it's just the way of life, man. And like I said before, I'm okay with going to work. I'm okay with doing the work for that and making sure that I have what I need in order to flourish and prosper. But no, it's not going to happen without work, man. It's not going to happen without some kind of labor. It's just not.
And let me ask you this then. The last question about this, because I definitely want to move on. But again, I'm just very curious about the way you approach life. Do you feel like having that moral support is absolutely necessary? And do you see a difference between, like musicians or just creative people in general that have that support, or those that don't? And let me rephrase it this way. First of all, I feel like most of us have support, whether we choose to see it or not, with our family, with boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses, friends, whatever. We all have people that support who we do. But there are some of us that choose to really, be grateful for that support and accept it. And there's some of us that don't. Some of us just have a harder time accepting that, and just we're more like lone wolves. You know what I mean? So I guess my question is, in your experience, obviously speaking about your life, but also maybe with other people that you've met, do you feel like having that moral support, does that make a big difference in people's careers?
It does, because everybody needs somebody that cares about them. I don't care who you are. You need to know somebody cares about you when the lights turn off, when this when the gig is over with, when when they shut down the stage, when they take the stage apart. You need to be able to go back to your home team, or something that you've created, or even if you haven't created, somewhere that you can go and be comfortable and let your hair down. Everybody needs that, period. And so I have that. I have that outside of Dre Energy, outside of the whole Dre Energy persona and all that other stuff, which I think is really cool. It's something I've, built for myself. But I have a strong foundation and home team that I can always go to and just be Andre Boyd all over again, and they understand that. They get that. They don't not most times get the whole Dre Energy thing, especially my wife. My mom neither, but but it's just one of those things that you want to be able to go and be yourself somewhere outside of the glitz and the glam.
Yeah. I bring it up because I think it's something that most creative people, especially the younger generation, can easily forget, is that support system that you do need. That it's just a fact of life. You see it constantly with different people of different industries, is that those that have that, not necessarily like a group, but you know what I mean, like a support group back at home, like you said, that home team that is there for when things are great and for when things are not, when you need to relax, when you need to work hard, but that they're there, that makes a huge difference in fulfillment. And, no matter where you go, like you said, you can be yourself when you come back and let it all go. And then it kind of recharges you too, so that you're ready to go back out there again.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And that's what you need. Everybody needs some form of normalcy in their lives, something that's consistent at all times, that never changes, that you can count on to be the same when you leave and when you come back. And so I'm a fan of the home team and your family and just the things like those things like that. I'm a real big fan of that.
Absolutely. Well, now I'm curious about Cirque du Soleil a little bit more then. I'm a big fan. Okay. So I love the productions, all the ones that they do. I mean, there's so many nowadays. I don't even know which ones are going on and which ones are not, but you were part of Karam, right?
Kiram, yeah.
Kiram, yeah. So what was the theme of that production?
The theme of the production was a little girl whose parents would not pay her any attention. So she grew into her imagination. And when she grew into her imagination, here comes this big show and all these different things that she thought of, all because her parents was not attentive to who she was. And it was a really cool thing. It was one of the most, it was like Cirque's most show, like it was one of the shows that they had done that was, more of a reality-based type thing, and, even today, people can still relate, whether it was now or whether it was back in 1995, people still could really relate to the story and take away from it. And, it was great. It was a great story. It was a great, run. And, it was amazing, man, but let me say this too, to the listeners too. When I first went out for Cirque du Soleil, when I got the Kidam gig, it was an amazing situation. I was very happy to get it. And my music director sent me somewhere around 40 DVDs of different show versions. Because on a gig like that, you can't read. You have to... Yeah. Visually is, that's everything for you. Being able to learn all the nuances of all the performers is the major thing. So I was so happy and so wrapped up in the hype of that I got a gig that I did not study. I had the music a year before it was time for me to leave, and I did not study until a week before it was time for me to leave. And when I got to Cirque du Soleil and they were ready to play the sound check and different things like that, I didn't know the show. and I was like inches away from being fired and sent back home, literally. And I went into my hotel room and locked myself in there for like 3 or 4 days and learned the show to its entirety from start to finish. I had to rewind some stuff. I had to play some stuff back. I had to start. I had to go from the beginning to the first half and then start all over again and do that like 10 or 11 times over in order to get it embedded in me on what the show was supposed to be. But that was something I had to do that I did not do and I was not equipped for. And I was literally like on my way out the door. But luckily, man, it worked out. And I was, my music director told me that out of all the people that he has worked with on that show, as far as drummers is concerned, I was the best drummer he had to work with.
Wow.
For that show. And that was one of the biggest compliments for me, knowing the history of when I first got there, that I was not supposed to stay, So I was really, really glad about that. So I'm saying that to say, when you get a gig, when you get an opportunity, do the work, do the homework, study it like crazy to make sure that you're not the weakest link.
So like what happened? I'm trying to envision what it must have been like, because you obviously killed it now. Like you obviously were there, and now that you've been there for, almost 10 years, basically, you've proven yourself that you are capable and you know the show. But how was it like that first time you sat down and you started playing, and did you look around and say, hey, where's the sheet music at? Or like, how was that experience when you first started to figure out, oh no, this is not going to go well?
Nah, it wasn't no sheet music. I knew it wasn't gonna be no sheet music, but for me, just like sitting back behind the drummer that was doing the show at the time, it was such a big machine that it was almost frightening. It was almost scary, man. Literally, like the whole vibe, man. It was scary to know that I have to run this big machine. I have a music director, but for the most part, to be honestly truthful, I had to run the machine. Seriously.
Wow.
And a lot of things were predicated on me. A lot of my flams and hits and cymbal hits and cymbal swells, all started with me. But it was one of those things that once I got comfortable with it, oh man, it was super easy. And I was able to kind of grow from there and learn the show and do some other things and introduce other things that became staples of the show that wasn't necessarily there when I first started, but me incorporating in certain things, it became a part of the show. So from that standpoint, it was really, really good, man. So I was very, very happy about that. But man, it was not an easy process coming in and starting. It was not, and I'll tell it to anybody, because it's like, man, this moving machine is like 1 million pounds, and you have to be able to know how to control it. And so, once I was able to get in, I was cool.
Nice. I mean, I imagine it's like that for almost any kind of production that you're in. And let me ask you this: when you're in that booth, because I've seen some of the videos of you being in that booth, and I feel intimidated when I'm looking at that kit and I'm looking at like the people moving around in front of you. I'm like, oh my God, like that, you have to be on it. Were they running a click? Was it everything timed, or was it basically like, all right, when this dancer does a split, then you do a fill and then we come back into song 5? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was like that. A lot of things was triggered, but for the most part, there were certain things in the music that the dancers and the acrobats could hear of where they needed to be. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if it could be me, starting a particular feel that cued the lights, that cued the dancers, that cued everything. So yeah, it was a little bit of both. But like I said, it's like this big machine that you have to learn the nuances, and the key is with these kind of shows is consistency. Yes, you can veer off a little bit, but there are things that have to stay the same, that cannot be different at any point. You have to keep certain aspects of the show the same.
Can you give me an example? Is it possible for you to recall like an example of where you could experiment a little bit, but where also you needed to keep it the same?
Even, the some of the videos that I got on, on Instagram with me, just kind of playing chops in between certain things, not necessarily playing while they're doing their tricks or whatnot. It's man, listen, it's crazily calculated, but like literally, when an acrobat is doing his tricks, I don't play. I just kind of stay away from that. But in between those holes, if I could find a hole to do what it is that I need to do, and to flourish and show what I could do, then I was going to do that. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's very, very hard because you have to make sure that you're not taken away from the show.
Well, yeah.
But you got to make sure that you're so on top. My music director said it best. He didn't want a drummer that people can go home and say, "Oh, he was okay," or "Oh, I can go home and play that. They should hire me." He wanted somebody that was really on top of it, that could really get, play all this really cool stuff, but at the same time be composed with it, play pocket. But I can still show you who I am, but I don't have to necessarily overplay the show in order to do that. And I will find my spots. Where I could necessarily experiment. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a big field. It could be a flam. It could be a flam in the right place that makes everybody say, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And so I learned that. I was able to learn that and calculate when I was supposed to do that kind of stuff.
And how long do you think that took to like get comfortable and get to a point where you can like experiment a little bit?
It took about 2.5, 3 years to really get 100% comfortable in that.
Wow.
And even when the show was finishing, I was still experimenting. I wasn't done. I was still trying things. I was still trying to find better ways to play this or better ways to play that or how to pull back. And the cool thing too, man, is that we have a playback. So all the shows were recorded. I could go back and watch any show to hear exactly what it is that I was playing that wasn't probably cool, or it was a little too much, or I underplayed. And I was able to kind of go and fix those things by watching the playback. And I constantly watched the playback so I could get better at playing the show.
Nice. And you know what? I'm curious about like the consistency too of the show itself. So when you were on the road, or maybe even when you were like in a specific city, how long would the show run for? Would you be playing it basically every night and like multiple times throughout the weekend, or was it just the weekend, or how many times were you playing a week?
We'd play 8 to 10 shows a week. I had 2 days off. First, Monday and Tuesday off, and we played Wednesday, 1 show, Thursday, 1 show, Friday, 2 shows, Saturday, 2 shows, Sunday, 2 shows, plus travel. So by the time I got to the next city, because we had to wait, most times we had to wait for the stage to be broken down, especially if we had a private plane. So if we had to do that, then we had like 3 or 4 hours just to wait around. And by the time we got into the next city, it was like 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 a.m. the next morning on Monday. So it was crazy. So Sundays was really, really crazy. Saturday night going into Sunday was really, really crazy because, we finished the show. By the time we finished the show, it was about 11 o'clock at night. I was back there on Sundays at 9 o'clock a.m., so, and then I really didn't necessarily get into bed until like about 5 a.m. Monday morning, so the weekends was very, very hectic, because, every Sunday, pretty much we were in a different city or a different country.
Yeah. And on a daily basis, so when the show would be running, would there be like a sound check every time, and would you guys run the show at least once or twice before the actual performance, or once you guys were done with rehearsals, you guys just performed just straight on through the tour, if that makes sense? Would you guys ever run through anything beforehand?
We didn't really do rehearsals, man. But we did, you know, if there was a show conditioning, then yeah, we did that. But for the most part, Wednesdays and Thursdays were the days that we ran the whole entire show in its entirety because we needed to make sure that everything worked. We needed to know what the room sounded like because every room was not the same. So we would run the show like that. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we would just kind of do a song or two or maybe a line check. But we did sound check every day for sure. And you know, and it was cool. You know, there were certain situations where we didn't have to because we played Royal Albert Hall for I think it was 9 or 10 weeks in London. So we didn't have to do that every day. We just literally did a line check because, you know, we're in the same place. So we don't have to be there like crazy. But the cool thing is the acrobats will have to be there, man, as early as 10, 11 a.m.
Oh, my God.
You know, and still at 11 o'clock p.m., you know, they're still working out and doing all those different things. They will work out before the show, they work out during the show, and they worked out after the show.
Wow. And
so it was their job basically is to work out. So it was, you know, so the band necessarily we didn't have to be there until 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, you know, for our sound check, you know. Yeah. So it was really cool for us doing that. But yeah, man, it was, like I said, all of it was supremely a great situation, man. I would not trade that whole thing for nothing. That whole experience, I wouldn't trade it for nothing, man. It was really one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, literally.
Oh my God, man. Being around so many acrobats, did you learn how to do the splits or anything like that?
No, I got a thing called balls. I'm sorry, I forgot this. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
You know, I didn't want to, you know, mess up the jewels, family jewels, especially. So,
oh man,
that, yeah.
Oh my God, man! I mean, we have fun here. I love this. I absolutely love talking with you. I'm curious then. Yeah. So with being with Cirque Du Solei, right? So it's a very calculated show, but I love the fact that that you're the one running the machine, you know, in a way that's what drummers have always been, in my opinion. And recently with, you know, technology and, you know, click tracks and just, you know, the pop scene becoming more, you know, automated in a way, I feel like the drummer's job hasn't necessarily been so in control, if that makes sense. But it seems like with Cirque du Soleil, they've kind of giving you back that control in still a very calculated way, but you are basically the one that's dictating the show.
Yeah, well, you know, my music director would not have it no other way because he really wanted me to really control everything with the show and control how everything was run. He didn't want me to follow along with the show. He wanted me to move the show. And I understood all of that. I really did. So yeah, after a while it started to make sense.
I'm curious, did he ask you to do that maybe because the previous drummer wasn't doing that, or was that always the intention of the show, is to have the drummer basically pushing the show forward?
That was always the intention of that was always his intention, to have the drummer pushing the show. You know, of course he's giving the cues. Of course he's giving the, you know, breakdowns and stop and push, you know. But for the most part, I had to set those breaks up, man. I had to set those big hits up. I had to break it down, you know. So, and I had to still at the same time too give the performers what they want. So if they did a kick or a split, you know, I had to do a cymbal roll or I had to do a hit, you know. Quick.
Yeah.
So it was a great thing, man. It was a really great thing. I learned a lot from playing that gig, man. I really did.
Damn, man. I mean, it sounds like an absolute dream gig, but also like you got to be on top of it to be able to play a gig to that caliber. And so I'm curious, now that you've been with Cirque for a little while now, and it seems like you're about to be going going on another show very, very soon. Do you feel like you prefer doing a production of this size versus, let's say, playing for like an artist and just playing like, a festival or something?
I like doing both. I've always said, man, I want to, because I haven't really got into the pop world as much as I would love to. I haven't really got into that world, but I have a lot of ideas and stuff that I want to do with that, with working inside the pop world too, and doing, Britney Spears or Beyonce or somebody like that of that caliber. But yes, I still love to do festivals. I'm a chameleon. I can do anything, so I've played gigs where I just only played brushes, so I'm a chameleon, man, literally, and so I'm okay with anything as long as it's fun to play and it's not stressful and it's not making us all feel like, oh, we got to pull our hair out because this gig is just ridiculous. No, man, no. So that's just me.
No, and that's fantastic. I completely agree with that. And the one thing that I love about doing this podcast primarily is that, the reality, I'm going to let you in a little bit more of my thought process is, there's tons of people out there, tons of forums, tons of websites that do a really good job of like talking about gear and, here's how you do a fill, here's how you do this, like all of that. There's so much information. And the one thing that I've grown to love about what I do specifically is that I love understanding why people do the things they do and what pushes them to do what they do. And that's one of the reasons why I love talking about this stuff, is because at the end of the day, how to do something is important, but the why you do something, what drives you to do that is equally as important. And I feel like a lot of creative people don't spend that much, at least in their younger years, don't spend that much time thinking about the why, and they focus a lot on the how, which is fine. I think it's absolutely necessary, but that's one of the reasons why I love talking with people like you who are very confident in who they are and understand what's important and understand what's at stake and understand the hard work that it takes, and they are driven by what makes them themselves, and that makes them successful. And that's something that I want. It's almost like the message that I'm trying to spread with this podcast is, aside from all the information and all the great things that we talk about with other artists, is that at the end of the day, that who you are as a person, having that support system, like you said, understanding who you are and putting in the work, that is just as important as the practice and the technique and the, practicing for hours a day, if that makes sense.
It is. It really is, man. I promise you, it's very much so important. Because practicing and all that other stuff is really good, and you should practice. You should definitely practice your craft, because all of that stuff that you're experimenting with, I promise you, at some point you will need. But at the same time, too, it's also good to practice on how to just groove and how to just play the pocket. Chops and stuff is amazing. That's amazing, but it's not what keeps you. It's not what gets the gig. Playing the gig and knowing how to really play the gig and knowing how to really lay into the gig is what people really kind of after more so. But no, man, I like I said, man, I've been blessed on so many different levels, man, to just kind of be able to do things. And I've been hearing music my whole entire life and playing music my whole entire life, and just kind of just digging into the whole thing, because I love being a musician. I love that whole thing. I love all of that. So I've just been that's just where I've been my whole entire life, man. It's just really into the whole music thing, and not so much as just into music to play drums. I've been into music to enjoy music, and to enjoy the different things. Man, I'm a fan. I'm a serious fan of music, man. Serious.
Nice. Who do you listen to, if I can ask? Like, aside from drummers, like what groups or artists are you into? I'm just curious.
I'm a Sting fan. I listen to a whole lot of gospel.
Yeah.
A lot of gospel music. Listen to Marvin Sapp. I listen to Fred Hammond. But I also listen to. I was listening to what's his name? McDonald. What's his name? Gosh, old school stuff. I listened to a lot. I was listening to Nathan East the other day. Me and my wife was driving on the highway, and I wanted to hear something different. I love Nathan East. I love Anita Baker. I love Sting. You know, I love Sting. I love just a lot of different things, and I'm, you know, as well as I love my whole drum family. I love Chris Dave. I love Dave Weckl. Shout out to Dave Weckl from St. Louis, my hometown. It's my dude. And I just listen to a lot of different people, man. I listen to a lot of different music. I don't really have a gist of like, I just listen to this. I listen to anything you can imagine, even your most weirdest stuff. I listen to it.
Absolutely, man. And I think that's what creates your unique style, or at least that's what makes you a powerhouse, is that you're able to kind of take from multiple different genres. And I'm glad you brought Dave Weckl up, because Dave Weckl has been my hero since I was like 2 years old. You know, Dave Weckl, you know, the first drumming video I ever watched was that, you know which one I'm talking about, is that drum battle that Dave Weckl had with Vinny Colaiuta and Steve Gadd. I feel like everyone has seen that video.
Over and over again, but it's still crazy, man. It's even like watching Vinny and Dave was just crazy. Even watching Steve, how Steve had that experience over all of them.
Yeah,
you know, they just you know what I'm saying. It was just amazing.
It's crazy to me that even like almost 30 years later, and maybe it's even longer than that. I think that came out like in 1988 or something. That video still holds its value. You know, like those guys, those three legendary drummers just sitting there. And by the way, if anyone listening, any of my fans or whatever, haven't watched this video, just go to YouTube and just type in Dave Weckl, Vinny Colaiuta, and Steve Gadd. And even before you finish that statement, I guarantee you it'll be the first video that pops up. Is a very legendary drum battle, probably the drum battles of all drum battles, is these three legendary drummer guys are sitting there just trading solos back and forth, and then Steve Gadd starts a groove on the cowbell, and then they all just basically start trading solos again over this groove, and it's just literally one of the best drum videos I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, let me tell you something that's crazy, man. Last year I did a clinic. I did a festival at the Adams Drum Festival, and it was crazy because at the side of the stage, watching my show, was Dave Weckl and Virgil Donati.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. I did. We did the festival together, man. It was in Holland, and Dave Weckl, you know, and Virgil Donati were on the right side of the stage. I could look over at him watching me play.
Oh, man.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know, right?
How'd that make you feel?
From that point on, oh, man, you know, Dave was the hometown hero. So, you know, for one, I'm elated that he's watching, but two, I'm like, wow, this is a straight up dream come true for a couple of my drum heroes. One that's really major to me, Dave, and as well as Virgil, because I've listened to all the Tribal Tech and Planet X stuff for years, and it was just crazy to see them on the side of the stage, like really enjoying my show, my part of the show.
Did you get a chance to talk to Dave at all, like after the show? Did you guys trade any information, any drumming secrets that I would want to know?
Well, I've hung out with Dave probably about 3 or 4 times in different countries. So I hung out with Dave in Seoul, South Korea, and I hung out with him in Sweden. And then we hooked up again in Holland. So we, you know, me and Dave were good friends anyway, you know. So it was like a reunion all over again. So it was good to see him, but he had never seen me play per se. And so it was a joy to do that. But yeah, we hung out before and after the show, man. It was great.
Dude, that's fantastic. Would you say that Dave Weckl, well, actually, let me ask this. So obviously Dave Weckl is a hometown hero, and I imagine he's a very big influence in your playing. Who else do you feel like influenced your style or your drumming style, if I can ask? Obviously, we all have multiple inspirations, but I'm curious, like, if you can name a couple more drummers that heavily inspire your playing.
Well, two of them in general, who are also my hometown heroes. One One guy named is Jeremy Haynes. Jeremy Haynes has done a lot of the big gospel records, uh, especially from the late '90s all the way to the 2000s. He kind of kind of changed the gospel sound. He's an amazing drummer, man, and literally one of the guys that I really look up to. And he has played, like I said, on a lot of Grammy Award winning albums. And so him, and as well as Rob Woody. Rob Woody is one of the guys that I closely had worked with, and I was able to kind of change my playing on the fact that he was left-handed, and I wasn't necessarily left-handed, but I started to play left-handed because I seen how great he was playing left-handed, and I seen how he was able to get around the drum kit, and I seen how he had great timing, and his ideas was flourishing. I've never seen anyone with as great of timing as Rob Woody, like literally still to this day, man. And I know we have Vinny, and I know we got all these different guys, man, but this guy has it. He has it naturally, man, and it's insane, dude. So those two guys alone have really, really, really still to this day are some of my major influences, and as well as we have a whole lot of other guys that has come from the city. Mark Kohlenberg, Marcus Baylor, Terrion Gully, Kim Thompson, Emmanuel Harrell, Montez Coleman, a lot of different guys that have come from our city that are major guys now that are really, really good and has really inspired my playing as well.
It's good that you have so many influences, because I feel like if you want to get better at any instrument or any really creative craft, you have to make sure that you're listening, you're keeping your ear to the ground and always watching what the greats are doing and applying whatever you like to your style. You know what I mean? And then that creates your unique style.
Yeah, well, that, and you know what also too, man, I've always said this. I said this especially to my up and coming drummers, that I've never seen a clone become great. And what I mean by that is, especially with this whole new trend of playing gospel, there's a way to play gospel. Sometimes drummers take it for granted and say, okay, we're just gonna play every chop we know in the book, and that's not the way that's supposed to happen. But even with that, you see a lot of those guys playing the same licks, the same crossovers, the same this, the same that. And I'm just like, Steve Gadd and Dave Weckl and all these other guys did not become great because they all sounded the same. They may have taken some different things from each other, but they all kind of branched off into their own thing. That is what you call greatness. That is what you want to build upon, period. Trend is cool, but you have to have a solid foundation in knowing who you are as a player, and build up off of that,
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, you have to be able to decipher, what's copying and what's taking influence. And I know a lot of people that have talked to me before, they do have this like fear. Some people do, not everyone, but some people do have this fear like, well, I don't want to sound too much like that guy, or I don't want to sound too much like this guy. And the reality is, when you experiment, I personally love understanding and breaking down fills and breaking down grooves and just like analyzing what it is that they did. And then as I learn it, as I play it back or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'll probably end up adding something by accident or something here left and right. And over time, as I add things to it, it becomes my own. And so I always encourage any drummer that I talk to that, hey, look, sometimes you gotta borrow from people, but you gotta make it your own. At the end of the day, you have to add a little spice to it, because like you said, you'll just end up being a clone and you'll never be the best version of you, period.
No. So if you have a desire to play your hi-hat, behind you, do it. If it's, do it, try it,
Yeah.
Don't do it because you're seeing someone else do it. I love what Chris Dave does with all the snares and having the snares, but that's not something I'm going to do. because that's just not what I've been equipped to do. You know, I love to see him do it because that's something that he studied, he sat in his dungeon and came up with and felt that this was the best thing for him. So, yeah, man, that's just, like I said, that's just where I'm at with all of it at this point now.
So what's next for you now? So you mentioned earlier that you're going to be probably most likely going on another production tour with Cirque. Is there like basically a new production that they're basically creating, or is it going to be a continuation of the same production that you were part of before?
No, it's not. It's actually, you actually have to stay tuned for that one.
Oh, really? Okay. It's pretty hush-hush right now, right?
Yeah, it's hush-hush, but it's already a show that's already in progress and has been in progress for many years. But it is, if all goes right, I'll be here in Vegas playing.
Oh, wow.
Nightly. So it'll be just that. But no, not necessarily a tour, because the thing is with Cirque, especially with the touring thing, you're on the road for like 335 days out the year. So with that being said, it's kind of hard to do that and have a wife too. So yeah. I'm cool with, and I'm getting old, man. You know, I wake up.
What are you talking about, man? Like, come on,
man. Come on, man. I'm grayed up, man. I got hair. I got gray hair all in the front of my face now.
That's called experience, man. It's called experience.
That's called ooh ah when I get out the bed. So, you know. So, but other than that, no, man. I'm looking forward to work smarter and not harder. And yeah, man, it's going to be something. So definitely, when this thing happens, in which I will know this week, when this thing happens, I will for sure let you and the audiences know what's going down. But yeah, man, it's something greatly in the works right now.
I'm excited for you, man. And you, out of all people, deserve that kind of success because you are a hustler. You work hard. I love your story on how you made this happen. I mean, you made this happen for yourself. And obviously there's lots of other things that helped you along the way. But I love your inspirational story. And frankly, there's so many, I don't even feel like I need to ask you anything else because I love your vibe, and I love how it is that you got this big production, how you owned it, and how you, even if you made a couple of mistakes along the way, like you mentioned in your story with the show, you still went, locked yourself in your hotel for 3 days, and you learned it. You put in the effort, you put in the work to make it happen. And that's what I love about your story, is that if there's a pattern, is that you see the opportunity, you know what you want, and then you put in the work, and then you get it. It's not a secret. It wasn't a luck or coincidence. You put in the work and you got it because you worked the hardest out of all your competitors. And I love that.
It's been amazing. Let me say this as well. I'm very also happy to have, especially while I was doing Cirque, I was voted via Rhythm Magazine as one of the top 10 best new drummers in the world in 2015. And so I'm really glad. And that all, I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that to say it all comes, no, seriously, it all comes from the work. It all comes from the work, man. So
it does.
That's just another part of the work.
And you know what? That's something we can spend hours talking about, improving it. But I think the point has been made. And guys, listen, whoever's listening to this, if you listen to some of my other guests or other episodes, you'll notice that pattern. And that's something that I always remind myself to whenever I'm trying to do something. And I think anyone who's successful reminds themselves of that, is that the work, it always pays off to some degree. It's like if you're sitting there trying to figure out what to do with your career, well, not doing anything is for sure not going to get it to you. But working at it, putting in that time is going to get you way closer. And one day it'll hit, or maybe something else will hit. But the point is that hard work is that key to jumpstart you into that path of where you want to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Put in the work. You'll see the results. I promise you.
Man, I normally ask people to like summarize or like say something real quick, like, hey, if someone's here to, wanting to do what you want to do, what would you tell them? But you just said it. You said, the hard work definitely pays off. So Dre, honestly, I couldn't be any happier with this podcast episode. And I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come on the show and just talk about your career, man. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you for having me. And I hope to come back soon again. That's cool.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dre. I know that I definitely did, and I'm always learning. I say this every single episode because I think it's important for me to mention that. You know, I do these podcasts because I love doing them, but I do them also because I want to learn and I want to grow and I want you guys to grow with me. And if there's one thing that you can take away from this episode is, you know, Dre, he got the gig of his dreams. He got to play with Cirque Du Solei, a gigantic machine, a gigantic gig, but he almost lost it. But he didn't go down without throwing a few punches of his own. He went into his hotel room and he learned that music and he came back the next day stronger than ever. And that's a lesson I want you guys to take for yourselves because I'm definitely taking it for myself. Prepare as much as you can, but no matter what happens, life throws you curveballs all the time. Make sure that you're willing to do everything that you can, everything in your power to keep that opportunity or to get that opportunity. Because I guarantee you the difference between those that keep the gigs, those that get the gigs, are the ones that are willing to do everything and not let anything get in their way to achieve their dreams. And I guarantee you, if you approach all of your opportunities in that mindset, you will achieve success. It's just a matter of time. So if you enjoyed this episode, please press that subscribe button because I've got lots of great content coming your way.